There is a belief that sounds very moral, very correct, and has been repeated to us since childhood. Care about others, pay attention to what people think, live in a way that pleases those around you. But few people tell you the other half of the truth, that if you spend too much energy looking outward, you will no longer have enough strength left to live your own life. We are taught to compare very early, to see who is better, who moves faster, who receives more recognition. And as we grow up, that habit does not disappear. It only becomes more subtle. You no longer compare grades, you compare income, you compare relationships, you compare lives on social media, and each time you do, you drift a little farther away from yourself. There is a very ordinary evening. You scroll through other people's lives. Someone is successful, someone is happy, someone is living the life you once wanted. And in those few short seconds, you are no longer living your own life. You are living inside the question, why not me? That question does not move you forward. It only keeps you frozen in comparison. Focusing on others creates a very dangerous illusion that if you understand them enough, if you observe closely enough, you will know what you should do. But the truth is the opposite. The more you look at others, the more unclear you become about yourself, because their lives are not built on your values, your circumstances, or your capacity. There was a man named Aaron. He knew everything about other people, who was doing what, who was about to achieve something big, but when asked what he wanted, he stayed silent for a long time. Not because he had no dreams, but because he had lived inside other people's orbit for too long. Focusing on others also carries another quiet cost. It turns you into someone who reacts more than acts. Someone speaks, you shift. Someone advances, you feel uneasy. Someone slows down, you feel relieved. Your life becomes a chain of reactions instead of a journey with intention. There is a line I find deeply meaningful. When you spend too long looking at another lane, you stop seeing the road you are on. And many accidents in life do not happen because you lack ability, but because you did not look forward long enough. What makes this especially dangerous is that paying attention to others is often beautifully disguised. It is called caring, being social, staying updated. But if you are honest with yourself, you will see that much of it adds no value to your life. It only makes you more tired, more scattered, and more doubtful of yourself. Focusing on yourself is not an act against anyone. It is an act of returning to very basic questions. What am I doing with my time? What values am I living by? Am I building my life, or am I only watching other people live theirs? In the next part, I will go deeper into the psychological reason people are so addicted to looking outward. Not because they are curious, but because they are avoiding something far more difficult, facing themselves. There is a rather uncomfortable truth that, if you do not accept it, will keep pulling your attention outward forever. People do not look at others merely out of curiosity. They look because looking at themselves is far more difficult. When you truly stop and no longer follow anyone, no longer track other people's lives, no longer place yourself inside comparison, a void appears. And inside that void, you begin to hear questions you have been avoiding for a long time. Where am I going? What am I postponing? Am I living my own life, or merely reacting to the world around me? This emptiness is unbearable for many people because it forces responsibility. When you are busy watching others, you have a reason not to act, a reason to delay, a reason to comfort yourself by saying you have not started because conditions are not right yet. But when there is no one left to watch, you are left with only yourself. And that is both frightening and freeing. There was a woman named Laura. She knew every detail of other people's lives. Who had just been promoted, who had just gotten married, who was living a dream life. Yet her own life stood still, not because she lacked ability, but because she spent too much energy observing instead of building. When Laura decided to pull her attention back to herself, the first thing she felt was not strength, but disorientation. There was nothing left to compare, no one left to watch. Evenings became so quiet that they felt uncomfortable. But inside that quiet, she began to see clearly what she truly wanted, not what merely looked desirable. This is a very common mechanism. People use others as temporary mirrors to avoid building an internal reference system. Comparison helps you locate yourself quickly, but it does not give you direction. You know where you stand relative to others, but you do not know where you are going. And the more you compare, the more dependent you become. Your mood depends on other people's progress. Your sense of worth depends on external feedback. You live a life whose measuring stick is not in your own hands. This quietly erodes self-respect. There is a very direct line. You cannot build a solid life by looking at someone else's life, because that foundation does not belong to you. It cannot carry the weight of long-term decisions. Only when you return to yourself do you begin laying real bricks. Focusing on yourself requires a very different kind of courage. Not the courage to confront the world, but the courage to stay with yourself when there is no noise, when there is no one to compare with, when there is no one to blame, when every question leads back to you. But the reward for this courage is immense. You begin to act for your own reasons, not to prove anything. You begin to choose relationships carefully, not out of coldness, but because you understand you need space to grow. You begin to slow down, not because you are falling behind, but because you are finally moving in the right direction. In the next part, I will share very real stories. Stories of people who once lived inside other people's orbit, and what changed when they decided to pull their gaze back and place it fully on their own lives. There is something interesting about major turning points in life. Most of them do not begin with a victory. They begin with a very quiet decision. The decision to stop looking, to stop checking, to stop comparing. There was a man named Daniel. For many years, he lived with the constant feeling that he was always behind. Friends were getting promoted, acquaintances were starting companies, others were showing off achievements, and each time Daniel asked himself what he had done wrong. He changed goals constantly. Whenever someone else's path looked promising, he wanted to try it too. But the more he tried, the more confused he became. His life started to feel like a draft edited over and over again by too many hands. One day, Daniel made a very small decision. He stopped updating, not because he disliked anyone, but because he realized that every time he looked, he lost direction. The first few weeks were difficult. He felt left behind, as if the world was moving forward without him. But then something else appeared. Quiet. Inside that quiet, Daniel began doing something he had always avoided. He looked directly at his own life, not through anyone else's lens, not measured against anyone else's standards. Just a simple question. With my abilities, my circumstances, and my limits, what can I build sustainably? That question was not glamorous, but it was real. And from a real question, real actions began to emerge. No more chasing trends, no more constant course changes. Daniel chose a path within his capacity and walked it very slowly. But this time, every step belonged to him. There is another story. A woman named Emily had always lived to please. Family, friends, colleagues. She was very good at reading other people's emotions, but in return, she could barely hear her own voice. When asked what she wanted, she often answered with what others expected. Emily began focusing on herself in a very different way. She did not cut anyone off. She simply stopped explaining, stopped proving, stopped living in a way that satisfied everyone. At first, she was misunderstood. People said she had changed, but inside, she felt for the first time that she was no longer being pulled outward. When you focus on yourself, some relationships naturally change. Not because you become selfish, but because you no longer fit relationships that only survive on your constant accommodation. This is painful, but it is necessary. Because you cannot grow in an environment that keeps dragging you back to an old version of yourself. There is a very clear image. Life is like a garden. If you keep looking into other people's gardens, you will not water your own. And then you wonder why nothing grows. Not because the seeds are bad, but because your attention has been placed in the wrong place. People who begin focusing on themselves rarely become louder. They become quieter. They explain less, react less. And that quiet creates a very different kind of pull. Not everyone understands it, but what fits will naturally find its way. In the final part, I will help you connect everything together, not with daily instructions, but by building an inner axis. A point of reference that allows you to know where you are going, no matter how much the outside world changes. There is one very important point that, if you miss it, focusing on yourself can easily be misunderstood. It is not about turning your back on the world. It is about placing the world in its proper position. Many people think that to live for themselves, they must become hard, cold, or detached. But in reality, those who truly focus on themselves are often calmer, because they no longer need constant validation from the world. They have an inner axis strong enough that outside opinions no longer shake them. That inner axis does not appear on its own. It is built through repeated choices. Each time you choose what is right for you instead of what is applauded. Each time you choose silence instead of explanation. Each time you choose to move slowly instead of matching someone else's pace. Every such choice lays another brick. There was a man named Michael who once said that he only truly felt alive when he stopped trying to prove anything to anyone. Before that, he was very good at achieving things that impressed others, but every achievement left a hollow space. Because it came not from the question of who he wanted to become, but from the question of who others wanted him to be. When you focus on yourself, you begin to measure life differently. Not by speed, but by consistency. Not by attention, but by inner peace. Not by praise, but by whether you can go to sleep at night without feeling that you are living the wrong life. Something interesting happens when you live this way. You are no longer dragged into other people's success or failure. You can celebrate them without feeling small. Learn from them without losing direction, because you know clearly what your own path looks like. Focusing on yourself does not mean you stop caring. It simply means you no longer trade your life to maintain everyone's satisfaction. You remain kind, but you no longer abandon yourself. And this is a boundary many people were never taught. Life will always be noisy. There will always be people moving faster, always people receiving more. But if you have an inner axis strong enough, those things become background, not direction. You do not need to escape the world. You simply need to stop letting it steer. If you are in a phase where you feel scattered, pulled in too many directions, perhaps you do not need more motivation. You need to reclaim your attention. Place it where it belongs, on what you can control, on small habits repeated daily, on decisions that require no audience. And then, very quietly, one day, you realize you no longer care much about what others are doing. Not because you are above them, but because you are finally busy building your own life.